Hey folks, and welcome to the Pipnotic Symposium for the 23rd of November 2021. Today we are going to talk a little bit about the Asset Strength Histogram on the website, talk about how I'm using it, have a look at a couple of trades that we've had over the past week. We're going to talk about some of the things that are going to be headed our way in the not so distant future in the form of a dashboard. We're also going to talk about what's going on in the world currently. So if we spend some time first of all looking at the trading chart, we had a couple of trades on this past week. On Friday I spoke about a couple of trades that we're in. I was actually in these two trades. One of the trades was stopped out. That was the Euro franc. I mentioned that I was likely going to close it out before the weekend, but I didn't get around to it. Price spiked down and stopped me out. So that was a bummer, but never mind. It was only a small loss, so no trouble, no damage done. That's one of the joys of when you have kids and their friends come over. Everything else ceases to exist. But it's great. It's a lot of fun. But we're still in this other trade as well. This is this trade that you can see here. This is gold versus the euro. We sold up here at this daily supply just at the beginning of the zone, and price actually went up to the beginning of the sell zone, which is the deepest retracement since this area was established. So it went right up to it. You can almost see it poked right through it, and then it went down. So this is a beautiful test of that area. And what I like about this trade now is that we have a couple of things going for it. We do have the fact that we've reacted here. We went very deep into the area. We also have this price inefficiency, which I really like. We also have this. We also have the sell signal on the histogram. And last time the histogram was up here. I mean, these kinds of things happen. We just grab the peaks and the troughs. I mean, these things happen. Okay, so things normally turn around in pretty short order in a few days. Okay, and we're up there now. We're up at an area of daily supply, and so this would be a super time to begin to sell, which we did, and now price is just doing its thing. So we're on the daily chart, so it takes time, so there's a lot of patience required to trade on the daily chart. But yeah, that's why it's good. You have children, then there are other things to do. But now we're just waiting for this to wriggle lower, and I just figured we'd snip it out at around here. This is roughly where we had some tests here, and this is kind of the area of demand, the white candles there that caused this area just here to get consumed. And so I think that this would be a tremendous place to get out of the trade, or at least take some of it off, because price could easily continue moving a little bit lower. If we mark off, gotcha, mosquito. If we mark off this, we had these highs here. We tested several times, and something in here did that. So we could easily, do something like this before we continue going high, something like that. Okay, this is just on the I like that on the back side of that. So that's where I think we are probably headed. That's what the money is on, at least. Yeah, so I mean, how am I using the histogram? So the histogram, man, it's great. I really like it because you can use it on your telephone. You can use it on anything. You don't have to have your MT4 platform open anymore. Okay, so you go to the website, you click on the Asset Strength Histogram, and if you're not logged on, you'll be sent to the pricing page. So all you have to do then is just click on my account, log on, and then you can get access to it. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll redirect you to the logon page if you're not logged on. So you go there, you click on this dashboard, the Asset Strength Histogram, just here, and then it'll load the page. And then here we have the table. And in the table we have all of the information, that is rather all of the signals that are currently available. Okay, and this is updated every 120 seconds, every 2 minutes. And so what I do is I normally click on the time frame and I just look for the daily stuff. Okay, I normally do the daily first because they are my favorites, and then I go to the weekly, which is my next favorite, and then I go to the 4 hour, which is my least favorite. And so that's what I've been doing. This is where we got the euro signal last week. We're stopped out, but now we are looking. It looks as if we've maybe found a bottom. We'll see. We have the euro Turkish lira and the euro American dollar. So let's have a look at the euro American dollar and see what that looks like, so we can actually see what that signal would look like. And you can see that, I mean, it's really racing south, isn't it? It's really moving. And so what we want to do here is we want to wait to see what we are testing on. And you can see here that, I mean, this area here, which is pretty interesting, it's been removed. So the area that removed it is this one here. So we have this little price nodule there. That's the one to remove this one. So this would be an interesting area to expect price to continue moving lower from. Okay, but if we go to a smaller time frame and we have a look at the price structure, the price is currently testing. It's right here. Okay, you can see that price is, sorry about that, price is currently gnawing away down here. And if you look at this, it doesn't really look like a super beautiful area, does it? I mean, price, let's look here. If you want to find something interesting, we have to actually, let me use these rectangles. You have to do something like this. We have to do the legwork. We have this test, several tests from around here. This is the area of supply that was consumed by some demand. Then you ask yourself, well, what demand? Well, then you say, well, this demand right here. We have two levels on top of each other. So I would take this. Price came up, we went up, we came down, and then we left. So the slingshot is roughly by the lows here. So I think this is where price will have a bounce. Below this is nothing. This is price. This is maybe some profit taking before we continue higher. But there's nothing in here. This is price. The pancakes on this plate have been eaten, and so I'm expecting price to move lower. And this is where this is the place where we have a release, and so I think that this would give us a little bit of an interesting reaction. If we zoom in a little, we get a bit of clarity. Okay, so here, up, down, up, down, up, down, and then release. So we do have something. Maybe you would put it like this, something like this. Okay, I think that's what we have there. This is probably where we're going to have a reaction. Looking lower, historically respected areas, tested. So there's something going on in there. And so that would lead me to believe that we're probably, if we do come down here, we're probably going to move down to the deepest retracement around here. This would be the next area that could be interesting. Okay, so these are the two areas that I would watch. Go back on the daily chart and let them fill, and we can see how far we are. We're still pretty far away from even the top one, and the one below, which will come in just a second, is even further down. You can see just here, but this one's fine. I like this one because there's not a lot in here. You want to find the area that causes a consumption of the supply that these tested. Okay, and the origin of that move is from here. Okay, and the slingshot was pulled back to here on this time frame, around here, so we could see some bounces here as well. Okay, we're getting close to that. So, I mean, this is gold. Sorry, it's not gold. This is the euro American dollar, and I just think that once price moves beyond this, below this, we're going to start to see people begin to buy the euro and sell the American dollar, because at the moment the American dollar is pretty strong. You can see that across the board. Okay, so that's what I'm doing. It's pretty simple. It's really slow. I don't use a lot of time. I use maybe an hour a day on it, just going through the pairs. I'm also doing this on the crypto as well. And we had a trade on Litecoin, the euro, last week. Let's just have a look at that. Here, so we bought right here at the 177. Price went up to about 20 something. We came down, and then I'm thinking that we'll continue moving north because we have this to deal with, and there's no real price inefficiency below price. Okay, and this lines up nicely with this, and so I'm thinking we'll go up here and then maybe deal with the inefficiencies up here. We'll have to wait and see. So patience. This is a longer term trade. I just really like that. So we'll hold that and see what happens. Okay. Okay, so then I'm going to the weekly chart. I click on this and I go to the weekly and I find something that I want that's interesting, or something that I can trade on my platform. There are a ton of stocks here. We have some crypto, Ethereum, Bitcoin. If we go a little bit further on, we can probably find some cryptos. We have the S&P 500. It's been screaming sell for a long time. Why? Because no one's buying the stock market at the moment. It's out of sync with reality, and so be super careful. Yeah, and a bunch of other stuff here. On the small time frames, the 4 hour, which is my least favorite, we can see the dollar is very high. We had this huge rally. Okay, so very strong dollar the last week and this week, and then you can start to see some other currency pairs. So we have the euro, British pound that is looking to be bought. So if we just have a quick look at that, the euro, British pound. Okay, the euro, British pound, just here. We are on a daily chart. So what's happening? Well, if we go to the weekly chart, we can actually, we could see here that we were actually on an area of daily demand. If we zoom out a little, we can see here it is, right there. Boom. We've got this. As tested, what else do we have? Oh, we have this. We have this. And we have this. So we have lots of price inefficiency to deal with. And this is the most recent one at demand. So this would be a pretty interesting place to buy. So what you're doing now is we're going to the other time frames. We're still very low. So you could just click into this. And here on this time frame, we can actually see those price inefficiencies. A really nice place to get out of the trade right there. Okay, we have this one as well. This one, remove this. And so there's lots of interesting places just here. So the euro pound could also be an interesting buy. We've also got this. So lots of interesting things going on there. Okay, and so somewhere around here, the 283.80 area would not be a bad place to begin to buy. Should price come down. We've already had the signals, so we could also just click into the trade. But if we go to maybe the 15-minute chart, maybe we can actually see. So if we have a look on a smaller time frame, yeah, this looks like a pretty interesting area. Gap down into, so we do have that, and so we could put that on. Okay, give ourselves a nice space for the stop. But maybe it's still pretty early here, so London's just maybe getting into it. Let me see what time it is in London. It's about 6 o'clock in the morning in London. Yeah, so what I'd like to see here is I'd like to see when London opens another run down, another one like this, and a continuation higher. That would be great. So we'd get filled, and then price could begin to rebalance. But we'll leave that and wait and see. Okay, so that's the hourly chart here. Okay, another thing I'm working on is as mentioned, I would like to move everything away from MT4 because I'm tired of the bad data in MT4. I'm tired of being dependent on the price feeds from MT4 to put trades. So I'd like to move away from that and move into something that is much more flexible. And so getting data from an independent liquidity provider would make much more sense. And so this is where I'd like to go. And so I started programming everything, rewriting everything in Python. That'll run on a VPS somewhere in the world, and it'll be pushing this data out to the Pipnotic website. So eventually there will be no need for software to be installed in your computers. And this is something that I'd really like. If we can have everything running in the browser, that would just be a beautiful and elegant solution. We can have graphs and tables of information that is useful that we can use to make trading decisions. So that's essentially where I'm headed. But one of the projects that I'm working on is this. It's the forecasting which is based on deep learning. And so what it's doing currently, it's downloading 5 years of historical data from a data provider, and it's running it through a neural network. And then I take a piece of the data for learning and a piece of the data for fitting. And so the learning piece educates the neural network, and so I know how to weight the different neurons in my neural network. And the fitting bit is used to modify the neurons a little bit so that we can make the data fit, hence the expression fitting. So I'm trying to get the data to fit to predictions to fit to the data, the fitting data, but not too much, because if you make it fit too much, you're overfitting, and then you completely destroy the model. So it has to be generic enough to work on anything. And yeah, so that's what I'm experimenting with currently. So if we look at an example, we've got this here, and this is Bitcoin, American dollar, because this is just the data I had. And so the forecast is to move straight. The low forecast is to pull back more, and the up forecast, or the high forecast, is to move higher and continue the push higher. Because of what I can see here, this price inefficiency here, and down here, I'm thinking we're going to have a deeper retracement before we continue higher. But eventually we're going to continue higher, that I'm convinced of, but not before having a bit of a retracement to onboard some buyers. So this will be interesting. I'll be scanning many assets, taking the data, formatting it, sending it to the Pipnotic website, and all this stuff will be displayed in some kind of a table. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I mean, what I'd really like to do is I'd like to see maybe the last 50 candles of actual price, and then the next 20 candles will be the prediction of where price is likely going to go. That'd be a really elegant solution. Then we can kind of align ourselves a little bit with what the algorithm is trying to tell us. I think that'd be a pretty elegant solution. So, but that's it's in the works. We'll see how we get on. It's just nice to move to something like Python, where everything is so well documented. There's such an enormous community, and I can feel on MT4 that it's just it's heavier stuff like lists and stuff like that, like normal simple data structures that are super important and are just available in Python. And if you want to link a list as an example, or a list in MQL, you have to write the data structure yourself, which is a huge pain. All right, so that's something that I look forward to. And as I mentioned earlier, it'd be really nice to be able to do some kind of sentiment analysis for different assets, gold, silver, some currency pairs, some crypto, some other stuff, using research. For example, I mean, imagine taking all of the articles written on a website like investing.com or FX Street or Bloomberg's or something like that, and taking all of the articles, downloading all of the text, analyzing all the text, finding the topic for each article, performing a sentiment analysis, and then providing like a cyclical index of that asset. I mean, that would be very useful, because if Bloomberg's analysts say that the American dollar is going to sell off, then I think there's probably something to it, because Bloomberg's analysts are normally quite good. And if you look at the people who are writing for some of these major investing websites, I mean, some of them are really good. So if they do have a bias, normally it's a pretty good bias, and maybe something that we should be aware of. And so having that information available in one of the dashboards, I think would be really awesome. So that's also something I'd like to do, but that's slightly further down the road. I'm still toying on finding out, how I'm going to do that, as you saw in one of the previous symposiums. Yeah, so that was that. Another thing that I want to just spend like a couple of minutes talking about is what's going on in the world now. There are some crazy things happening, and very quickly, currently in Europe and Australia and many other places in the world, and I think the tendency is quite frightening. And so a lot of people think that if you have an opinion about it, or if you have a negative bias to what's going on, then you're an anti-vaxxer, and that is not the case. There are people who are vaccinated who think that what's going on is horrifying, and quite frankly, I am very in alignment with that. I think that the things that are going on in Austria currently you don't have to go far. You don't have to go back that far in history to see a similar kind of a situation unfold. And how did that end? It ended very, very badly. And so Austria now, with locking down everyone, the vaccinated and the unvaccinated, they're doing this obviously for the unvaccinated to get pressure put on them by the vaccinated group. And so they're really dividing the people, and they're trying to conquer them by getting one side to put pressure on the other. And I think it's a very horrifying tendency, and I think we should all be aware of actually what's going on. Also, the fact that Pfizer produced, I think it was a 36,000 page document that covers a lot of the research and the safety data of their vaccines, and the FDA has just applied for approval to not publish it for 55 years. I mean, why would you apply for approval not to publish the result of an analysis and research for 55 years? You would only be doing this if you had something to hide. Otherwise, it would be out in the open. Okay? And so you really have to pay attention, because there's some crazy shit going on. And a lot of people who are getting their information from the BBC and CNN and NBC and all the others, they're not being told the truth. Okay, so you really have to do some due diligence in what you're saying at the moment. And there's a study that's come out by an independent reader. I don't know who this person is. They prefer to be anonymous, but they are looking at the data that is available via the NHS in the UK. And the NHS is showing via their data that people who have been double vaccinated are developing immunodeficiency, which is a really bad thing. So you can call it vaccine-induced immunodeficiency. And acquired immunodeficiency syndrome is also known as AIDS. And AIDS is the result of a viral infection known as HIV, whereby the immune system doesn't function properly, and so it cannot protect you from the common cold or anything else like that that a healthy immune system otherwise would easily be able to tackle. This is very, very alarming. I will publish this in the room so you can have a look at it, and I encourage you not to dismiss it, but to take the time to walk through it, to look at the data, and to draw your own conclusions. Because if you're focusing exclusively on what the mainstream media is telling you, well, then you're not really being told the truth, because there is a lot going on. There are demonstrations all over the place. I have friends in Croatia. Today I was sent a picture of a demonstration in Croatia. There were over 1 million people on the road, on the streets. You're not seeing this in the mainstream media either. The demonstrations in Austria, in Germany, in Italy, in France, in England, in Australia, in Denmark, in Belgium, in Holland. Europe is on the brink of a civil war, but you're not reading this anywhere in the headlines. You have to ask yourself, why are we not seeing this being covered in the mainstream media? It's because the mainstream media does not want us to know about it. Something very, very nefarious is in the works, and everyone needs to wake up, because it's going to get very, very ugly. If not for our sakes, then for our children's sakes. Now they are looking to inject our children with these experimental vaccines. I'm not very pleased about that, and I know that many people are not pleased about that. Why? Well, if you consider for a moment these so-called vaccines, many people don't realize that the vaccines that are currently being used, the mRNA vaccines, so BioNTech and Pfizer, they are currently in the human trials. And so a vaccine, the polio vaccine took was it 10, 20 years to make. This vaccine was made virtually overnight. And normally you have a hypothesis, you create a proof of concept in the form of vaccine, and then you try the vaccine on a group of typically animals. Then you see how the animals fare relative to the virus supposed to be inoculated against, and you also look at how the animals fare relative to actually receiving this vaccination. None of these vaccines have done animal trials. They jumped directly over the animal trials and they went straight to human trials. Does anyone find that alarming? Personally, I find that very alarming. There is a website called clinicaltrials.gov. This one here, it's a governmental website. I'm not making this up. This is the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine effectiveness study. Okay, so this is a vaccine that is being injected into billions of people globally. But if we scroll down and we have a look here at the study description, the primary objective of this study is to determine the vaccine effectiveness of 2 doses of Pfizer-BioNTech's vaccine against COVID-19 associated hospitalization. Okay, so we scroll down a little bit further. You can see here actual study date. It started May 15th, 2021. The primary study completion is April 1st, 22, and the estimated study completion is 30th of July, 2023. What does that tell us? Well, that tells us that the vaccines that they're injecting to everyone in the world is in human trials. And it went to human trials directly from a computer-generated assumption that it would be okay to put into people. They never went to animal trials. They jumped over the animal testing. I think they have stages 1, 2, and 3 according to the FDA. They jumped over those. They went straight to human beings. There is zero data telling us that this is safe to put in ourselves or our children. The gentleman, Dr. Robert Malone, who invented the mRNA technology, has been very outspoken about never using mRNA vaccines in people. What's happening? They're being used on people. This is very alarming. And if you're not aware of this, then you really need to wake up. And the only reason I'm bringing this up in a symposium about trading is because this is probably the most important thing that I have ever seen in my life. This affects everybody on the planet. We have to take this seriously. Okay? So there's a lot of very strange things going on. There's this article that is based on a study of the data that is being published by the NHS in the UK. They're talking about the efficacy of the vaccine and how the vaccine itself is destroying the immune system. You can see the efficacy of it. Positive is good. What about these numbers here? Minus 109 from the age group 40 to 49. We are minus 109% more protected than people who are unvaccinated. What is that telling us? That's telling us that if you are unvaccinated, you are 109% more protected than a vaccinated person. And the numbers get worse and worse and worse. And if this does not make your alarm bells go off, I don't know what does. But it's time that everyone wakes up and they realize what's going on, because what's going on is life-changing and life-altering. Life will never go back to the way it was before. That's over. And we have to start to push back, because if we don't, then we're all going to be hostages in a totalitarian situation across the planet. And I don't think anyone wants that. Anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. If you have any questions about ASH or about the coming algos in the future, I would be absolutely thrilled to hear from you. And with that, I will wish you all a pleasant day. Thanks so much for watching.